New decade, new rules. Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I am here with a brand new movie review, and this movie review is going to be for the very last Scream review I'm going to be doing until the new one comes out. It's going to be for the fourth film that was released around 2011, almost 11 years after Scream 3 was released, and that is of course none other than Scream 4. Yeah, originally Scream 3 was supposed to be the last movie of the series, but eventually, Wes Craven decided to go ahead and make a fourth one. And this fourth one would go on to be his last movie, and I'm going to get to why in a little bit. But anyway, here is what this movie is about. Well, on the 15th anniversary of the original Woodsboro Massacre back in 1996, high school students Jenny Randall and Maureen Cooper are murdered by a new Ghostface. At the end of her book tour, Sidney Prescott visits her hometown after 10 long years, and she catches up with old friends. Her return not only brings back memories, but also beckons the return of Ghostface. Yeah, it's pretty much the plot of the movie. So, when the film was released in April 2011, it drew mixed to positive reactions from most people. There were most fans who viewed this as a fun and way better sequel to the series than 3, and there was also some that viewed it as not needed and somewhat of a rehash. Although, this movie was kind of meant to be a rehash as this one is meant to satirize and parody remakes. And why remakes are most of the time pointless and not needed. Because around the time this was made, we all know the 2000s was the popular trend of really bad horror remakes that were just made for the money and were just pointlessly not needed. Some of them were good. Some of them were just downright awful. We don't speak of them on this channel. Now, this is going to be pretty ironic. I actually saw this movie long before I saw 2 or 3. Because I saw this around the time I got introduced to Scream. Because this came out on DVD around Halloween week. And this was actually the first Scream sequel I saw. I know, kind of ironic, right? But thankfully I saw the first one before I saw this. Yeah, but despite that, I actually did enjoy this movie, especially months later after I finally saw 3. I got introduced to the franchise around the year in 2011 when this movie came out, and I feel like this one should have been the third movie instead. That sounds kind of weird to say, because this movie kind of feels like a way better finale to the series than the third one did. I really loved all the twists this one did too. However, this would sadly be Wes Craven's final film since he eventually died 4 years after this movie's release, sadly. Rest in peace. Like the previous 3 films, the actors went all out in pulling another dramatic and suspenseful horror movie with some eerie calm moments and jumpy sequences. It has its corny moments, especially the overly executed teenage vernacular moments, the nerd acting producers of the Cinema Club, and the somewhat clueless acting from Dewey, who's still played by David Arquette, but still gives a pretty wonderful performance. But this film is actually watchable, and it gives you some pretty good scares from its creepy and jumpy scenes. Even as the third sequel featuring yet again the Ghostface character, the plot actually is still very fresh and is well paced from start to finish. And like most of his horror films were, director Wes Craven kept the unknown and one of the culprits a big mystery, leaving this film unpredictable and full of surprises and twists. And I also really love the school cinema club scene in the classroom, and you see all the unique movie posters on the walls, like for John Carpenter's The Thing, Wolf Creek, or even Rob Zombie's H2, and just many posters like around the room, and they discuss all the cliches of horror remakes. too, and what makes them kind of bad. And I also like the twist of Jill Prescott being the killer the whole time. Now I will say I am not a fan of Emma Roberts, guys, but this is probably her one performance I actually really liked. Really liked how they actually make her look, how the movie makes her look innocent the whole time up until the very finale when the reveal happens. Even though I thought her ex-boyfriend Trevor was the killer because he acts like a douche most of the film until his death scene. Anyways, so yeah, of course you think this guy's gonna be the killer. He seems to act like he is. I guess my only problems with this movie are the ending feels a bit too abrupt and that there are hardly much scares in this one again. Not to mention they do rehash the first one at times, but not as much as most rehashes, plus once again, it's meant to make fun of horror remakes, so of course they would rehash some stuff. And except just do it in a gorier way. I think this is probably the most violent Scream movie ever. Like, ever since the first one. The other two haven't really been that violent. 2 and 3 weren't really that violent. This is probably the second most violent film in the franchise, behind the first one. Because I still think the first one's more violent than the sequels. But overall, I think this is a very underrated sequel. I think it deserves a bit more attention, and it's a shame it unfortunately bombed with only 97 million worldwide on a 40 million budget. Got released during a time the slasher genre was kind of dying out. It would be making way for the shittier stuff, like the shitty jump scare bumhouse crap, like Paranormal Craptivity or Sinister. It was coming out around the time that era when all the stupid ghosts were taking over horror and ruining it. But thankfully, the slasher genre didn't die out as slasher genre slowly started to make a comeback, some icons are starting to return, and we're getting a new fifth movie, so I'm glad we're seeing some horror icons from the 80s or 90s actually finally get a comeback. Like, we finally saw Michael make a comeback, we finally saw Candyman make a comeback, and now we're seeing Ghostface make a comeback. Now I just want to see like one more comeback of Freddy, and that is it. Just at least Robert Englund play the character one more time. And I would like to see Jason make a comeback in a direct sequel to Jason Lives that it completely ignores Part 7, follows on with Tommy Jarvis, or heck, I'd even love to see a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason and close off both franchises. Even if it were made, I get we have the comic books, but I want to see an actual sequel movie that closes off the series, both the franchises for good. But in the end, overall, if you are a fan of this franchise, fan of the Scream movies, this is a film that is worth streaming online or any device. It's an improvement over the third one, but still not as good as the first two movies of the franchise, but it's still worth a watch. Anyways, here's how I'm going to rank Scream 4. I am going to give Scream 4 a 7 out of 10. And there we go. We are up until that new one comes out this week. We are officially done talking about Scream films until then. We have now reviewed all the series. We are now ready for the fifth one that will be coming out this Friday. Well, maybe I'll go see it Thursday, but it'll depend on how I'm feeling Thursday because tomorrow I'm going to be getting my booster dose, guys. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how I feel after that. Yeah, but I will likely be seeing it Friday night and reviewing it. So yeah, and I actually really can't wait. It's starting to get a little better, especially after I first saw the trailer. I wasn't too excited, but now I'm starting to get a little more excited for this one. I'm already hearing some pretty good things about 5 so far, so let's hope I like it, from my opinion. And until then, that'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and if you like this and want to see more, then don't forget to like, subscribe to Movie Lover 120.